Welcome to the Stumble Across podcast. This is the podcast where I basically stumble across someone online, invite them for a chat, and usually with me knowing very little about them. So this is completely unprepared, unfiltered, and it can lead to uncovering some of the best stories. In today's episode, I stumble across hip-hop musician Kange, who is from England, now living in Paris. We obviously bring up the Eiffel Tower and how it maybe isn't all the tourists hope for. We talk about how COVID affected musicians and actually brought some positive productivity for some. And I ask how hard it is moving to a new country, figuring out a new language and a new way of life. All in today's podcast. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from, first of all.
Okay, my name is Kange. I'm a music artist and I'm from the UK, but I currently live in Paris.
So many questions already. What first of all, before we get into your music side of things, what made you move to Paris?
Actually, I've grown up in Paris. So when I lived in England till I was 8. And then when I was 8, my parents decided that me and my siblings need to learn French. So we moved to Paris. Mm-hmm. And then when I was 18, I went to university in England. And now I've come back to live with my parents in Paris.
Very good. And how did you find the whole learning French thing? Like I tried it and I just couldn't get my head around it.
So the funny thing is I was learning French in England in primary school beforehand. And at the time I only knew like 2 words, like pantalon and then like bonjour, the normal stuff. Yeah. And then when I was living there, I was able, like in Paris, I was able to have this like foreign learning class. Right. So I wasn't technically integrated into school, but I was doing like French lessons at the same time on the side. It was easy. I lie. French is difficult.
Yeah. Because a lot of people can pick up languages like straight away, and then others, it takes a wee bit longer to get your head around.
Yeah, French is difficult because of the grammar sentences and then the feminization or the masculization of the words, and the pronunciation. So for like the longest time, I couldn't say yellow with a French accent. I would always be like jaune.
Yeah. Because it's the accent that helps it too.
Yeah. And it's like when you're learning any language, if you don't apply the accent, then it's not gonna click. Like so. I think being in France was helped making learn their language easy. In general, French is a hard language.
Do you speak any other languages?
Yeah, Spanish.
Probably 2 of the hardest.
Yeah, that's because of school though. Like in France, they're very big on languages. They even learn Latin here, which is like a dead language. So I did literature classes in Spanish.
I mean, as for traveling, are you big into traveling then? Is that, going to France, going to Spain?
Yeah, that's something I love to do. I love discovering other people's cultures and just seeing how they live and how you can find things in common and you can find new ways to live and all that stuff. Unfortunately, I haven't traveled outside of Europe yet, but I'm hoping to like save up enough to go to like, I don't know. I have no clue where.
Because I mean, and this suits some people, but some people don't go outside of the country. Some people just never go away. Yeah, and I just think that's such a shame sometimes, to see the world.
Shame, yeah, because you become so like closed-minded, and so anything outside of what you know is then stupid or like seems like not right. Yeah, but that's not true because other people have gone through different experiences and have different traditions and all that stuff. So
like even just the lifestyle, I remember the first time I went away, I went to Poland and I'm from the UK as well, but like just going somewhere different is just, it's a weird feeling. Yeah. But it's a good feeling when you get back, you're thinking you've actually achieved something getting away.
Yeah. And you get to see and experience so many different things, and the food too. That's one of my big things when I go away. Yeah. Like testing the food.
So now I've never been to France. So is there a big difference in the food?
Yeah.
Right.
I prefer English food.
Okay.
To be honest, just because there's a lot more variety. But in France, they're big on their like ham they're like meat boards and cheese and all that stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
lactose intolerant, so the cheese really
Oh
affects
no.
me here.
Yeah. Yeah, that would.
um,
Um, and where does the music come in then? Did you kind of always just do music?
well, yeah, kind of. I guess like my parents kind of. I grew up on music. Like I grew up on
Mhm,
reggae, Bob Marley, and all that stuff.
mhm.
And then when I was 8, I don't know if you probably know that in schools, in primary school, when you're 8, you get the choice to learn an instrument.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to learn the steel drums, but my parents it was too expensive, so I learned the violin instead. And then
Steel
from the
drums are
violin,
such. There's a guy on TikTok who I follow, and he goes live every day, and he's there's kind of amazing background behind him.
yeah,
Iceland somewhere, I think he is. But steel drums must be the hardest thing to play. Like you just kind of look at it and you wonder how does he know where every single note is?
because there's like indents, and each
Yeah.
indent is a note, so then you kind of
Uh-huh.
have to learn the notes by heart. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's just when it's played right, it sounds so good.
it's amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that was one of the instruments I was really fascinated with when I was younger.
Mhm.
And so then from the violin, I went to guitar. Um, and then I stopped at guitar. I didn't learn any other instrument. I picked up
Yeah.
the drums a little bit for like a year, but that
Mhm,
was
mhm.
because I got like free classes. When I went to uni for music, that's when I started doing music production and all that stuff.
And would you want to, now you've kind of done guitar for that long period of time, would you like to go to do something else? Or do you think you can not take too much else in? I think
Um,
because people say like once you learn guitar, you can kind of learn them all. I think guitar is
mm,
probably the hardest. I
yeah,
mean, that's just from me being a piano player because, all the keys are in front of you and you don't have to like look around and bend your fingers around, bend your hand around. And
right.
it can be difficult. It can be difficult.
Difficult. I would still say like I'm intermediate on guitar. There's still stuff that I want to learn. Like I'm not very good at like when it comes to like maybe finger style playing or solos and stuff like that. So I want to kind of like go deeper into that.
Yeah.
But I do, I am kind of learning the piano as well because that helps with music production.
Mhm, mhm.
I do eventually want to like potentially learn the saxophone. Like I have a list of instruments that I want to learn, and I don't think there's a time ever to stop learning something new.
Yeah.
So once I have enough funds, then I'll be buying myself like a
Yeah.
tons of instruments to play. Like
Yeah. And like a saxophone can just fit with anything. It doesn't matter what you
anything.
play.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the sound of the saxophone so much. So
Mhm. I mean, as you say, though, if you learned piano, the stuff we use now for music production is just like next to the real thing. It's
yeah.
incredible.
Mm, exactly, and you can find so many realistic instruments like with plugins. So I think but I think the what we're losing in music is like the authenticness, like the creativity of it. So I feel like if I'm learning instruments, then I would always be able to inject some kind of new weird sound into my music, just because I'm not always creating on my MIDI.
Yeah. And it's not just a copy and paste every time because you find that sometimes you listen to a
Yeah.
song and it's just a copy and paste. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm getting tired of the copy and paste.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've obviously wrote your own stuff then?
Yeah.
Mm.
All the time. I kind of had to because I went to Falmouth University in Cornwall. So it's
Mhm.
a small town and it was mostly like rock bands, indie rock bands, and not many people were doing hip hop. And so I
Mm.
couldn't really find any hip hop producers. And at that time, I wasn't very big on being online. So I just kind of like, I was like, let me just do it all by myself
Yeah.
and picked up production and tried to get better at that as I go. So yeah.
Because it's such a hit or miss. Like people say when they go to study music, sometimes they just like meet someone there and they hit it off. But then other times you kind of just forced into a group of people and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it is. Uni is a eye-opening place
Mm.
because you meet so many different people from many different backgrounds. Um, and what was even more eye-opening for me was that I was from France, so I had a different culture, especially when it came to like drinking or nights out. we would all go to someone's place and share our alcohol and stuff like that. And when I got to uni, it was like every man for himself, you know.
Yeah,
But
because are French people into all that kind of partying? I don't get that, you know.
So yes and no. So technically in France, you won't find that many big, huge clubs in Paris, at least. You will like mostly see bars and restaurants and stuff like that, because the French love to eat out. They love to like drink slowly, like drink and talk, or like kind of like the English grab a beer after work, you know?
Yeah.
And you do have like the hardcore party side with clubs that stay open until 6 a.m. But you have to really be with friends or in the know of like that scene to see it, because it's not like it's not like you're walking down Paris and you'll see a club that's like, oh yeah, free entry here, you know, kind of thing.
And when you're walking about, what is the music scene like in France, in Paris?
So compared to like England with the live music scene, I would say not that good when it comes to like, for example, if you just wanted to find a live show happening in a bar with some random band, that's very rare in Paris. But like the shows, like big bands, medium bands, like people with like 200,000 listeners on monthly on Spotify and stuff like that will come like and do venues in Paris and stuff like that. So it's there, but it's, as an independent artist, at least it's hard to break into to start going to venues. You have to actually start at open mics. And then even then in Paris, there's a lot of open mics that prefer that you just have an acoustic instrument with you. They don't like it if you bring in like backing tracks and plug in your USB and stuff like that. So you have to really look.
That's a dangerous road that we're almost going down in the UK. Like, it's just anyone and everyone is doing it. And it's just
really, I haven't been out to a live show in the UK in a while. So like, is it?
I think just like every bar you go to, there's someone who thinks they're a musician, but they're not. They're just putting on backing tracks and they're kind of singing over the top. But you know, it's like and it's not the true view of what the scene is. Yeah,
it's all about network now, because I feel like those kind of spots are a bit more exclusive. They're keeping it a bit more quiet, and especially after COVID. So I feel like you have to know people to know where performances and things are happening and stuff like that.
Yeah, and with COVID, did you feel that you were kind of making more music online? Did you kind of become a bit more present?
Yeah, definitely, because that was part of my third year project. For that project I started doing vlogs on YouTube, and I dabbled in YouTube before, but nothing really consistent, and from there I kind of actually gained a love for creating content, and so I decided to like, you know, I had an Instagram, so I decided to like put up more stuff and kind of perfect my content creation, which I was able to do actually during COVID, which was cool.
Yeah. And with the tracks you've got kind of so far, have you got like what kind of a collection have you got? Have you got like an album out or what kind of?
So I have one EP out. But that's like my very old style. Like, it's when I was messing around with mixing hip hop, kind of 808s with guitar, and it was like a really weird ambient sound. So it was cool. I'm so complicated. I'm so complicated. My philosophy escapes me. Floating around my SP. I guess I'm overseas, overboard.
Because sometimes hip hop and guitar don't mix. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they don't mix, and if you go back and listen to that EP, it has like a weird kind of jazzy, hip-hoppy, melodic-y kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It was such a weird vibe that I was going through. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's my mixtape called Death of the Ego. That was 9 songs, and that was a bit more hip-hop conscious. You can still tell that I'm like getting my feet in music production in that one. And then ever since 2020, it's just been a bunch of singles. I can't, maybe like 30 singles I have out. In total I have 33 songs out. Yeah, so it's just been a bunch of singles since then.
And it's a lot for one person to take out. You know, if you said, you know, being independent and so on. Like, other people have loads of people behind the scenes doing it, but yeah, but doing it yourself must be tricky enough.
Yeah, like well, before February of this year, I was unemployed for 2 years. So I had a lot of time on my hands basically. And I really wanted to go like full speed into music by releasing like, I posted every day on Instagram. I was posting on YouTube once a week. Um, and I was even like streaming live on Twitch from time to time. So yeah, but once I got a job, that output slowed down. Even with the singles, it slowed down, but I'm still able to release quite consistently because I do like some months where I record a lot in one go, and then I just spend the next few months mixing, which I did that earlier this year. That's why I have quite a few songs in the vault still.
And do you do this all at home?
Yeah.
Because you can't imagine, say like, I don't know, even like 20, 30 years ago, like having to actually go to studio, do it all. But I think COVID almost taught us how to do it ourselves and how to have a crack at it anyway.
Because to be fair, like I had studios in university, but I never really liked recording in my studio, in the studios. I always liked recording at home.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I would
the red light syndrome, as soon as the red light goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. That, and most of the time I was recording by myself, so I couldn't have anyone in the other booth. Like, so I had this small room with my laptop, and you could hear the like laptop sound in the background.
Yeah.
So, unless I'm recording like live instruments, I wouldn't go to the studio, to be honest. Like, I even had the experience of going to the studio last year, although the studio was quite far from me. But I just didn't like it, because when I have a song idea, I want to be able to hop up and record it straight away and know that if I record this take, then I can possibly use it in the final mix of the song. Whereas the studio, if I have an idea, then I have to hop on the I don't drive, so the bus and public transport is long.
And the idea is gone. You've lost the idea by that point. Yeah.
I'm annoyed by everyone on the public transport that I forgot what I was like singing about.
It was Charlie Puth who actually kind of made me realize that when he was just recording voice notes, and then he ended up actually just using that in the songs, because that was the idea, is that it's, instead of getting the pen and paper out. It's incredible what you can get. Yeah.
Especially now that you have voice notes. So sometimes I'll record a voice note. I'll just practice the song again and again and again before I actually go into Logic Pro to start recording. Or I will I'll be on public transport and I'll be singing, and I'll have a tune in my head and I'll just sing that as best as I can into my microphone really close.
And
then come back home and work on that. So no.
And outside of music, what do you do for a living?
So I work at an exchange bureau right now.
Right. You must see all types of people in that job.
I'm so glad I got this job. I have so many stories.
Like, people watching is my number. I would just love to sit on a street corner all day and just watch people all day. I could do that.
Yeah, because it's open bureau, so we see people see us, and we see people. I've had homeless people bother me. I've been insulted a ton. I've met some really cool people too.
And do you see, I mean, I guess just being in Paris, it's one of the most busiest places. Yeah, definitely.
Busiest places, and all types of people from all different nationalities, like Asian tourists. We get people for a lot of Americans, English, Australian, New Zealand, I even get quite a few people from Africa as well that come by, Latin America as well. So it's very diverse.
This is probably going to be a tricky question, but is the Eiffel Tower all that it's made out to be? Because a lot of people say it's not really what I thought.
Well, all of Paris is not what it's made out to be. If you just come to Paris, it's pretty. That I'll give you that. But bring a mask, because it just smells of pee and mostly pee.
Yeah. Well, we're used to that in Belfast. We're used
there you go.
Yeah. Where is your kind of goals then? Where do you want to take your music? Obviously, you want to be performing in those big venues.
Yeah, of course. That's I think that's every person's dream that goes into music. But I've kind of had to reevaluate that, like, because before I was like top of the charts, and I just kind of want to be able to make a living of that. My goal actually is I just really want an engaged fan base, like ride or die. They're like, if someone's slamming me on the internet, they'll be like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah. I know. Because that's the thing. Like, you can be a massive star, but have no connection with your fans.
Yeah, exactly. And music and being an artist is like, the fans are what makes you. I wouldn't say what makes you an artist, but I feel like they can push you to do more creative things. Like every time I go about a project with like my future fans in mind, I always get like tons of ideas, like, and I'm working on a ton of stuff that I won't be able to enact later until I have a fan base. So that's really my goal, just people that I can connect with and that connect with my music.
Mm-hmm. And are you ever surprised when you put something online at, say, like Spotify, you're surprised at the locations of the people who actually pick up the music?
Yeah, very surprised. I got a lot of listeners in Brazil and India.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I can tell some of it is from my promotion, like when I go on playlists that, with an Indian creator or anything like that. But sometimes like there's stuff that comes out of nowhere, like Ukraine. There's people that are listening to me in Ukraine. And the other countries that I just didn't think would be interested, like Algeria, I think, Morocco.
And that must be such a good feeling for you, like just not knowing where it's gonna end up.
Yeah, and I always think in the future, like, I'll be able to perform in one of those places, and so that it's really cool to see that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I know a bit totally random, I know. But where can people, so they can search for you on Spotify and the rest of it then, yeah?
Yeah, my name is Kange, Kange. You can find me on Spotify. On Instagram, I'm Kange Music with a K. And you can find me on TikTok as well, Twitch. I'm practically everywhere.
Well, thanks so much, and the best of luck with all the music.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and all other podcast platforms. You obviously know that because you're listening. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly updates, and please do leave a review and a rating. All the links are in the description. Until next time.